Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. Today I've got with me Terri, and Terri and I are going to talk about this, aren't we, Terri?
I sure as heck hope so.
Blogging on Instagram. Before we get in and talk about this, why don't you tell us where we can find you, Terri?
Okay, well, in all the usual places, Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
And you're Terri Nakamura, aren't you, on all of those places?
Terri Nakamura in most places. I think LinkedIn, though, you have to have /Terri Nakamura. But yeah, I think because I started on social media so early.
You did.
There weren't a lot of Terri Nakamuras there. So
just so people know, when I started on Twitter, Terri was one of the people that I used to look up to in terms of, and she knows this because when I was over in Seattle, my partner and I went out and saw Terri and Terri's husband's shop as well as stuff, didn't we?
That was really fun, really fun. When someone comes to Seattle and we're able to get together in person, it's kind of a magical moment, really, because it's one thing to talk on Zoom or on email or in tweets or whatever, but when you actually see that person and you can give them a hug, like a real one instead of a virtual one, it's pretty sweet.
So tell us about your journey, because you have been on. You were quite a major early adopter of social media. So tell us about that.
Well, I started on LinkedIn and Facebook first. That was around 2007, and Twitter in 2008. And I thought Twitter was so weird. It was just, it was unlike anything else I'd experienced. And a client of mine said, "Terri, you really need to get onto this platform." So I fell in love with it. First, I'm sure that people today still don't know what to do when they get there. Like they sign up and they go, "Well, now what?" And then people start following you and you're like, "What are you, a stalker or something?" It just feels really odd until you kind of get into the swing of it. But yeah, I loved the ability to just connect with so many different people and meet them and then
because the thing about Twitter that you get is it's actually, first and foremost, it's it's social media, so you're social. So
Right.
Anybody out there, you can contact Terri or me and have a conversation with us.
Theoretically, that's true. Like if you're trying to get a hold of the president, probably that won't work. But just a normal person, definitely you can reach out to somebody and start a conversation with them, and that's amazing. Really, yes. That access is kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, the fact that we met each other on Twitter, and then I'm in Seattle on business, and I said, "Why don't we meet up?"
That was so cool.
It was, but it's still the power of the internet and the power of social media, and the fact
it is, because we never, that would have never happened if we hadn't crossed paths there first. And I think a lot of people who don't really get social media, except maybe as consumers of information and news, they don't really understand that social part of it. They're really missing out the best part, because when you are able to make connections and get to know somebody, you do have these friendships. It's amazing.
I've met people all around the world through social media and through Twitter. And it's just amazing that because you have a certain conversation online, but you then have a different conversation offline. I would have never known that your husband ran a surf shack in off the beach.
I know it. And the fact that there is no surfing in Seattle makes it even more amusing, right? So it's really more of a beach store, but he's delusional. It's okay.
Well,
we've been married for 40 years.
The thing that I loved about it was upstairs above an ice cream store, which is ice cream is a passion of mine. So,
oh, what? Really?
It is, yeah. Unfortunately, it's passed down from father to son.
Okay.
So,
yeah, well, it's really great ice cream.
So let's talk about your book.
Sure.
What was the inspiration for it?
The inspiration was I was having a hard time with my job. I was working as a marketing communications director, and I was really depressed. So I started writing these longer captions on Instagram, kind of just out in the void, like we all do. But what I noticed was people were reading it and started reacting to it and conversing with me. And I thought, well, this is really odd, like because before it was kind of not interactive on Instagram, but it became very interactive, and I realized that it was really because my posts were longer. They
Yeah.
were more revealing about what I was thinking or what I was asking people. And whenever you invite that kind of engagement, it's miraculous what happens on that platform.
And
So
I remember you saying to me when we met, "Oh, I'm going to write a book." And I'm not sure if you'd got the title at that point, but I remember when you said to me, "Blogging on Instagram." Went blogging on Instagram photos, isn't it? I mean, this
yeah,
is it's
I
blogging
know.
on Instagram. It's surely that's an oxymoron.
Well, it really seems that way, but it is all about content like everywhere now. It's visual and it's audio and it's also words. And so people have realized even places like LinkedIn and Facebook and even Twitter is now considering long format, posts on their platforms because they're realizing that people are interested in reading. So I just think that that discovery that I noticed by writing longer posts and getting greater engagement, that it was kind of like this secret that I was keeping to myself, but I really wanted to share it with people. So that was the purpose for writing the book.
And is that what you talk about in the book about engagement writing?
Yes, I try to explain to people that there are some things that you can do to actually cultivate relationships and cultivate engagement, because you can have some dynamite photos that
Mm.
or videos that you put out there, but if it's really passive engagement where somebody just looks at it and likes it, that is gratifying, but it doesn't really lead to anything further,
Because if you think
you know
about consuming Instagram, is kind of flick, 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 flick. You just go. It's just like that.
It is, except that, if there's a good picture and then you have a good hook in the beginning of your caption, something that maybe just catches the eye a little bit, they'll go, "Huh?" or "What does that mean?" or, it's just it kind of piques interest. Then the entry into the post, usually people will stay there. I mean, if it's something interesting, so, I think there's some, formulas that I kind of came upon while I was writing my own Instagram posts and seeing that kind of interaction, and then wanting to write the book that I wanted to share it with people. So
And you went through. You did a crowdsourcing campaign, didn't you, for your book?
I did. The publisher that I used, um, the bottom line is, in order to publish a paperback, ebook, and hardback version of the book, it's a hybrid publisher. It was going to cost me around $6,000, and I didn't have an extra $6,000 laying around, but they know that about everybody. So they actually have this entire machinery set up
Right.
to do an Indiegogo campaign. Everything from soup to nuts on how to do that properly. And somebody is there, like watching you all the time, holding your hand, telling you what you should and shouldn't do to really kind of make that successful. And they were right. I mean, everything that they advised me to do allowed me to exceed the goal I had
Yep.
set for myself. So it was scary. I mean, have you ever done a crowdsourcing campaign?
I haven't. No. I
Oh
remember
my
you.
God.
I remember you doing it, and I remember just pouncing on and paying the money
You
because
were you were so amazing.
because I just because I knew that you'd be sitting there going, "Oh my God, I've put it out
I
there,"
was.
and I
It
just
was
pounced and
nail
I thought
biting.
I'm going to pay the money because because I just want you to know that there's people out there that are supporting you.
I think social media, Tim, I mean, people like you know, these friends that I've developed over the years, they were there for me.
They were. I know.
It
I
was
saw.
touching.
There was like a. It was like a feeding frenzy of people buying it.
I don't know if it was a feeding frenzy, but it was enough to definitely get me over the hump. And my gratitude is just unending for you and everybody that came forward, because a lot of people that I know in real life didn't. They just it's so strange that way. Like, people that I actually know in person didn't support my book, and it was kind of like I didn't really
I've got a
understand.
signed copy. And I've
You
got
are one of
a
only
postcard as
very few
well.
people who got signed copies in other countries, because we didn't do international shipping, but you were totally like, you were there for me. So
And I got a and I got a card as well.
yeah. Well, you were really special for supporting me, and I'll always be grateful to you for that. And also, thank you so much for letting me be part of this live stream. I'm petrified. I hope you know that.
I do. I know that you're petrified. I do know
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And the thing is that it's okay, because you know, if we make a mistake, it doesn't matter. But we just laugh about it. You know, when I got into doing this live streaming, I had to figure out all of the technicalities of it. And I now have people ringing me up saying, "Can you help me?" And I say, "Well, I can show you what I know, but the first rule is you go online, and if it doesn't work, laugh."
Yeah, I had this vision of the last time when we talked, and my cat was sitting in the room,
Yeah, I
and
was looking for it today.
yeah, and I had no idea that the cat was in the room, and you go, your cat's been watching me this whole time. And I had this vision this morning of having the cat walk in and barf, like, while we were talking, so hey, it hasn't happened yet,
It
but
hasn't
it's still
happened. It hasn't
possible.
happened yet. It did. It sat there and it like looked at me as if to say, "I'm going to come over there and kill you." Because you
Well,
know what cats are
anyway,
like. They're very friendly. But your cat's like
they're big.
massive, isn't it?
Yeah, they're big guys. I don't know what the conversion is to metric. They're 14 pounds approximately in the US, and I always have to ask Google to please convert something from one thing to the other, because even the temperature, when I hear the temperature in the UK or wherever, I have to ask them to convert it for me so I can get some sense. You would think I would be able to figure that out. You probably know in your
Yeah,
head, right?
it's double it and add 30 for the temperature, or the other
Double
way
and
around,
add
take
30.
30 off and half it, or whatever it is.
Okay.
I
Google
don't know,
is faster.
but I mean, you know, we're the UK, so we're the UK, so there's a whole bunch of people trying to stop us using kilograms.
They're trying to stop.
Yeah, because we've come out
Why?
of Europe.
Oh, huh. I it would throw a wrench into everything if you change anything at all, even including the time zone. Like, we're trying to go on daylight savings time year round. And who would have ever thought that would be a problem? But God, there are people that are upset about it.
Yeah,
I'm not one
we're
of them.
supposed to be trying to go on to one, but it. So anyway, Instagram is a digital diary. You talk about that in
Yes.
your book. What do you mean?
Well, I think people who don't really understand what they want to write about, like, if they're not poets, or if they're not, on a political bandwagon or whatever, you can use it as a digital diary. And it's actually really a cool thing to do, because then you have this kind of ongoing narrative of your life, and you have photos, and you have your thoughts, or your experiences, and you can look back at that. You can look back at a year ago and say, oh wow, this is what I was doing or thinking on that day. So diaries are a pain in the butt, right? So this makes it really fun, and actually a lot of people will relate to stuff that you write. So it's fun to hear other people share in response to whatever you're writing about. So I think that that's probably the easiest way to start writing on Instagram. And I think a lot of people kind of naturally are doing that anyway. When you post a picture and you're on a boat whale watching,
Yeah.
and you just say whale watching, but if you were to say, I can't believe this gigantic orca just leaped out of the water. And then so when you start to kind of add a little bit of information about what people are seeing, or even if it has nothing to do with the picture, but just enough information so people are interested. And then always ending with asking a question. I think that that's the main thing is,
Yeah.
you have to invite people to participate.
And that's about having that ongoing conversation, in effect, isn't it? Of having a question, responding with a response, and then asking a question back, and that's where you get
Yeah,
the
and I think you have to interact with those responses too, because if 50 people respond to you and then you don't do anything except put little heart next to their comment, that's not engagement.
it's not.
No,
If
it isn't.
if
It
I
is
mean,
middle. It is technically, but it's not satisfying to the other person if they've gone to the trouble of writing something and then you just put a little heart by it. I think that if you go even say just thanks,
yeah.
that's more meaningful.
And I think what it does is that if you just put something like that, the person who's actually made the comment is likely to respond isn't likely to respond next time, because I say, well, the person couldn't be bothered to reply to me. So I have a friend called Keith Keller in Melbourne who's
Mhm.
active on Twitter, and he and I have had a conversation. Of course, his day is my night, and my night is his, because he's on the other side of the world for me, and we've had this conversation probably now for 2 years, where I go up in the morning and he'll respond with something, and then I respond, and then I go to and we just do this, and we just go on having a conversation for over 2 years, and it just goes on and on and on and on.
Well, it's a delayed reaction, but I think that is pretty common because there are people everywhere. And so some people, like my friends in Australia, when I see something, I know they're never going to see what I've posted until, 10, 12 hours later. So,
Mm.
but it's okay. I mean, it's just a nice way of keeping in touch with everybody,
Mm.
and everyone understands the rules, or maybe once they do understand the rules, they're okay with it,
Mm.
so
So, personal brands. What do you think about personal brands?
I think a lot of people make this mistake of not being consistent. Like, you're really an ace at that, and a lot of people that are kind of in
Probably too good, if
communications.
say. Sorry,
Well,
if I'm allowed to
but
be
really, I mean,
modest
it's
about it.
like you've done such an amazing job from platform to platform, and I don't think that everyone understands the importance of that, because you can't be found if you don't. I mean, you have to make it as easy as possible. So the branding part of it is important. Like, I usually advise people to use something like Gravatar, so they have,
Okay.
their avatar kind of registered, right?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I
it's
know. I
so
don't
you're
use it myself, but I
identified.
know of it. Yes.
But I don't even abide by that rule myself all the time. Like, I didn't do that on Instagram. I have this oddball picture of me with one of my cats, no, with my phone, and it's because I didn't think I was going to be there very long. So it was kind of an experiment,
Mm.
And then once I realized that I had built up a following, I felt like it would be really difficult to change it at this point. I may still do that, but it's like I'm not following my own advice. I'm the shoemaker's kid who has no shoes. I need to do something probably to kind of get a little closer to where I am everywhere else except Instagram.
So, do you have any other tips for us? Social media tips for us?
Well, I think that basically on Instagram, for example, you just have to start with a good visual and hook, because if you can get somebody to just take a millisecond to pause and either look at the image or look at the hook that you've invited them in, then that's really the entire battle, because once they kind of get into it, they're there for the duration.
Yeah.
There are some things that I would advise people to do if they're just trying to increase like clicks or any kind of traffic to their Instagram, like adding your location. Like if you're at a museum or if you're in a
Yep.
town or some kind of place, and just
Yep,
adding
I
the
agree.
location is automatically going to increase the amount of people who see your post. And the third thing would be to do some hashtag research. Like I was not great at that for a long time.
Yep.
I thought, oh, I'm going to think of something really clever that no one else has thought of. Well, guess what? No one's going to look for that.
Yeah.
So you have to think of, things that are going to be more broadly reaching. And I was thinking, well, if it has 500 people, that's quite a few people. Well, 500 people is not enough people. And when you enter hashtags into Instagram to just see what kind of reaction, you can see some that have like 20 million people. Okay, those are bad, right? Don't use those, because your post among 20 million will never rise to the top. But if you can look for a sweet spot, and I would say that it's anywhere from maybe 50,000
Yep.
even up to 1 million, if there are that many people
Great.
looking for that hashtag, then there's a better chance of discovery. And I've seen my own Instagram go from, discovery of maybe 24 people to 480 people or 1,000 people because of the hashtags that I use. So, that's kind of a biggie, I would say.
I mean, with Instagram hashtags, it's always been driven by hashtags.
Yeah, there's no search engine. There's no SEO. Really, the hashtags are the SEO there, and it's an internal search engine. And so people have said, well, that doesn't really work because you're stuck on Instagram. Well, guess what? People that are on Instagram are looking for stuff on Instagram. They're not going to leave Instagram and go to Google and look for something. They're looking for something while they're there. So, I don't really think that is a valid kind of criticism.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I always find it interesting in terms of seeing the people that follow the hashtags. So
Right.
and so so you've got to remember that people do that. So there's also remember there's people that you're not following that are following those hashtags as well. So what they're doing is they're getting they could be getting your stuff in their feed, which is about spreading your influence.
Yeah, and my last favorite thing that I want to say is that since Instagram is now giving people the option to look at your favorites and to look at the people that you follow, as opposed to just succumbing to their algorithm, it's actually cool, because then you end up seeing all these people that you haven't seen in years, because Instagram has been suppressing them, thinking that you only are going to like a certain kind of content, when you really want to see the people that you know and connect with. And so if you click on followers, or if you click on favorites, then you get to see those things first. And then if you want to go back to the algorithm, go ahead, but I think
Terri,
that's a neat feature.
Thank you so much for coming on. And I know that you've been terrified. And I hope it's been okay for you.
You've been very gentle. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm just going to mention your book again in case anybody has watched it this far, in terms of your book, Blogging on Instagram. And I know that I'm a bit of I know I'm a bit of a fanboy, but
it's
I
a
have read
mutual
it.
admiration.
I think it's a really good. I love the fact that it's blogging on Instagram. I mean, who would have thought?
You were so awesome helping me from the very, very beginning, like when it was still kind of an embryonic idea. I'm really grateful to you, because you're one of the greats, and you helped me. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your journey and your expertise with everybody. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tim.
So where can people find you?
Okay, again, Twitter, Instagram, and all the usual places. Terri Nakamura, spelled TerriNakamura, one word.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Terri.
Okay.
Have a great day.
I don't know how to get out of here.
Have a great day. Well, I'm going to end this.
Okay.
I end the stream like this.